And the next element that I want to try to do is the moon, because I think it's really important for the whole picture. And I kind of want to keep kind of the blue and, well, more of the purple color, I think. I've done in the past, and I would love, if this was more of something I thought of as a autumn picture, I would do my orange, almost blood moon that I've done in the past, because I really love those two colors. Orange and purple are so pretty together. But I'm thinking, you know, this is February, and we're gonna have a lot of pinks in the picture. At least I'm thinking there's gonna be some pinks in the picture. And I wanted to kind of keep that color scheme going. So what I did is started planning, and this is what I do, this is just cardstock, and I went out and started, one of the things I told you before with these Derwent Inktense, it's really important that you kind of swatch them to know exactly what the color is, because even though, let's see, this is Thistle, so we have the color on the end, it doesn't always perfectly match. Now that one's a pretty close one, except for that is the absolute darkest that Thistle is going to be. And let's see, just like this one is the Dusky purple, and that's actually lighter than what I actually see over here, but it's got that grayish blue or purple, which I like. And then this one over here that I think I'm going to stick with is my lovely Payne's gray. I use it for a lot, but I like that it has kind of a blue cool tint to it, and I think it matches really well. And then one other one that I've decided on is going to be the fuchsia, because I want kind of that pink color, so that's this one here. So again, you know, go ahead and put them out. Plus it helps, I can look at these and go, okay, which ones do I think go better together, which ones kind of complement. And I do have an inspiration picture which I will put up for you to see, that kind of gave me the colors in the moon. And those are the pinks and the blues and the grays that I'm wanting to kind of use in that, and that's what these were kind of. So I'm going to be, I settled on for now, and then I did a little bit of a test run. So I did a little circle, and then I just wanted to see how light I could make them and the colors I could do, and how they might blend, just to kind of give me some ideas over here on the page. Now granted, anything, you know, I want to do somewhat fairly light, because if I want to really add in any more specifics later on or more detail, I would do that with my colored pencils. So the colors that we're going to be using, I just kind of went through them, but we're going to have the Thistle is one. The next one that I've chosen is that Dusky purple. So that one. And this helps me that if I had to walk away, or in the future, if I want to come back and actually, and then my Payne's gray, I'm going to write that down. It's a lovely gray, it always is, 2110. I can use this to remind me of what all I used. The nice thing too is that when I go in and I do edit my videos, I already have this information waiting for me when I'm ready to do the editing part, because that's always a lot. And then I did go ahead and choose the fuchsia. So the ones I didn't go with, I thought the carmine pink was too red. There was too much red in it. Not enough of that pink to purple color. The deep rose was really close to these other ones, but it didn't feel like it fit quite as well for the colors I'm trying for. And then the red violet had a little too much red in it. So then, like I said, what I did is I went over here and I kind of did some highlighting and kind of seeing how they work together, and I really do like that. So now I'm going to go in and actually work on the moon itself, using this kind of as my guideline. One of the things I also practiced on this was how heavy, you know, here I practice a very light hand, so I know how heavy to go in to get more of the colors that I'm hoping to get. All right, here comes the proof in the pudding. You know, you can do all the planning you want, but it's all about being able to actually create it. And what's in my mind's eye doesn't always end up on the paper, but we'll make it work. You know, I channel my inner Tim Gunn so much, and you know, come on designers, come on colorist, make it work. So if something bizarre happens, then we'll deal with it, definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and go in to start with with my my Payne's gray and just do a little bit of shadow shading that I want to do. I'm okay about this. This area was what we colored earlier by accident, so now I'm just going to go in and I think it'll work really well. And this is, I'm holding it way back so that I don't put any pressure. There is a lot of pigment that comes out on this, and I don't want, you know, a big, huge gray splotch. The other thing is that, you know, I kind of look at these as the craters. So I'm going to start kind of giving them some depth with that Payne's gray. Literally doing it very, very light around the edges. Probably going to come out here, do a few here. The next one that I think, let's see, we'll just grab whatever I grab. So what do I grab? The Thistle. So here I'm going to have the Thistle, and we're just going to go in and start adding it. Now Thistle is kind of a real light purple, but I want that color kind of, the shadow to be kind of a lighter purple. So I don't want the gray over here on this side because I'm thinking this is the lighter side, so I'd rather just have a little bit of hint of the purple. Okay. Now I want to go in with that Dusky. There's my Dusky purple. Is that it? Yeah, this is my Dusky purple, and I'm just going to put in a little bit darker in here. Last we'll come in with just a bit of fuchsia, just really lightly. Very scribbly, which is kind of odd. All right, now something else that you can do, and it's not probably going to show up, but they do have an antique white on here, and you can actually, I have a tendency to do it on the edges of the colors and then kind of smear it out. Now you cannot see this, it'll look like I'm doing nothing, but there is a bit of this white that's going down, and what I hope that does is kind of mix in with the colors and lighten them up a little bit. So that I can fade them out. But yeah, the white is kind of an interesting thing. I've tried using it, and it's hard to see it, but I do feel like it adds something, or maybe not. Maybe I just don't want to waste a pencil, and I think all pencils should have a purpose. I'm giving my white a purpose. So I'm just kind of adding it in as a color that can maybe mix with these. Now I have to be careful because controlling this is going to be a little bit of a challenge with all those other lovely little berries and leaves around. So I'm going to go get my very specific little brush and experiment for a moment. My little detail brush. Open up my water. Get my thing out so I can, a little piece of paper there to dab off onto. All right, let's just try up here in this little corner and see what happens. What I kind of want is a little bit more of a watercolor effect. I kind of want it to really move around a bit. As I said, I can come in and use more, put more details in later. Also remember in here, because I don't want to drag too much of the color all the way across, it does build up on your brush, the pigment, so be careful about building up one spot and dragging it to another, because it'll change the color that you might have been aiming for. Here's a perfect example. I have a lot of that pigment on that brush, and I don't want it to come out here that much. And then this little one is a darker, and I want it to stay put. I don't want to drag it all over my picture. So we'll just do that. But you just, if you're building or dragging along and you're picking up a lot of pigment, it can start causing some challenges. So in there even, I'd like that dark to stay in there, not get dragged out of that little crevice. The little pit in the moon's surface, the crater. Okay, so we have a little bit. I'm going to leave kind of that area. Oh, there's some in here. I might want to activate just so that I don't accidentally activate it later. All right, so I've left that spot kind of a little bit lighter because, we're going to try to have this moon glow a little bit. So there's the moon right now. As far as with the Derwents that I wanted to do, I'm kind of happy with it. It'll be neat to see once I do these in front of it how that's looking. But the next thing I want to move on to is going to be the next biggest element in the on the page, other than the little fairy people, which are made up of numerous little elements, and that's going to be these little crescent moons that they're sitting on. And I'm very excited because I have not used these before in a page, and not on and definitely not here on YouTube or ColorTube, whatever you want to call it. So I'm very excited. So let me go get those, and I will bring them out and to show you what they are. All right, so All right, so like I said I was going to do, I went out and once again I was doing all my greens and swatching them so I could choose some greens. There's some that are more of a blue-green that I think would clash with this a little bit too much because I'm not going the turquoisey route. I'd rather go some warmer greens. There's a few that are a little bit too yellow, I think, for this picture, so those have been marked out. So largely I'm using beech green, Ionian green, light green, hooker's green, and spring green and leaf green are kind of my options. So what I decided I would do first and foremost, and I've already started, is going through and just doing the base again, everything on spring green on all these little leaves. Fairly light, because I think most of my detail work will be done with the colored pencils in the future. But for now, I'm just trying to get some of my base, and then I might come in and do a little bit extra with some of the veining and shadowing. But for right now, I'm just going through coloring all, and I'm starting with the berries leaves first, and you know, doing it, like I said, fairly light, as I'm not sure how much shadowing and all that because all of this kind of appears, you know, the moon is behind it, so to me that puts a lot of things in shadow, but yet I still want to be able to see my little peoples here, my little fae, my little fairies, and my little bugs and things that are having their Valentine's Day dates, or evening dates, I should say, Valentine's Day evening dates. So let me go ahead and bring you down so you can see. Again, really, really light in here. And I'm just using the spring green, which is number 1550. So getting a lot done in this. These Derwents really make the coloring process a lot quicker because I'm not doing all my 100 labels. Sorry, layers, not labels. But we'll have to see how many I end up doing anyway with my pencils, knowing me. So it looks as if I've got everything, so with my first round of color. Now what I am going to go ahead and do is I want just a slight darker color. I'm going to do the beech green. So it's beech green 1510, and I'm just going to go into some of these shaded areas and put a little bit of that to see that whenever I activate it, can I go ahead and get a little bit of shading. So that's what I'm going to do around. So like right here, if you can see, there's just already shading that she's already done, and I'm just going to add just a little bit in there, very lightly, and just a hint. So I'm going to go around and do that all over the page, and then we'll come back and I will activate it. So some of these I might not do, you know, unless they've got those little kind of the dark lines that the artist has put in already. Kind of the idea. Okay, so now I'm ready to do a little bit of activating and see what colors we get. It's always kind of a unknown, kind of exciting, I guess, every time we do this. At least I think so. That's not to say it really is. And so I'm going to actually start, as I normally do, kind of tentative to just see what's going on. And so I'm trying to figure out, do I want to go from the dark to the light or the light up to the dark? So this is a lighter color. I think what I'd like to do is do from this light, oop, that's way too much water, light up into where the dark would be, and then keep the dark in that area. So I'm starting from the front of the leaf where that lighter bright green is to the darker one, which is still not terribly dark, but it okay, so that's how I want to do it, because I want to keep the dark in the shaded area, and I don't really want it to come into the light. So it would actually ruin the effect of a lighter area in the front if I then drag the dark pigment or the darker green down into that. So you would lose, and then everything would be just basically this darker green color. So that's why I'm starting in the light and then coming up into the dark, because remember, it does grab the pigment. There we go. And then I am also cleaning off my brush between each leaf so that I can start fresh, because again, if I'm ending up in the dark, the darker area, the next time I go to another leaf, I'm going to transfer that dark with me. So this is going to be nice and relaxing, but it will take a little while. But there you can kind of see the intensity coming around, and then we'll see what we're going to do with it. Remember, these are all kind of base colors, and then I have to figure out. Still haven't decided about those berries yet. And I also want to make sure that I do activate everything, so that when I do decide whatever I'm doing with the berries, I don't want to accidentally go into the green and have it come up on the berries. So, ooh, that's an idea for the berries. See, this is what I mean about spending some time. So this is like a moon, maybe I treat this as a moonlight garden. And in a moon garden, you would plant flowers and things that either have, they're either white, so they reflect the moonlight back, so they kind of almost glow at night. Or you do like a silver or a variegated kind of leaf to catch light where you can. So maybe I do some form of almost like a white berry of some sort. That might be interesting up here. I don't know. I'll probably try to do it, see if I like it. And if I don't, usually if you do something light like that, you can kind of cover over it. So I'll choose a berry like in some place where it's not really in the middle of the picture. So maybe I try over here with this little tiny berry over here and see if I like it. That's often what I do when I'm trying to figure out what to do with a page. I kind of let myself go ahead and try a little corner. If you noticed when I started doing even the crescents and stuff, I start in kind of an area, or the moon in an area that if I'm not doing it the way I want, or it's not coming out the way I like, I could cover it up pretty easily. You know, I don't start with playing with something that's right in the middle. Like even when I started with the blue, the night sky, I did that over in a corner first to see if I liked it. So that's kind of my method. So something I just noticed is I didn't actually color in this particular leaf. So I'm stealing from a leaf down here some pigment and trying to bring it up here. So that leaf is going to be just naturally a little bit lighter, but if I steal enough pigment from different areas, I might be okay. So if I steal from here, I can keep coming back and coloring in here. Then we don't have to go get the pencil back out. Not too bad. It's not as bright as everybody else, but that's okay. Leaves are different. Just keep coming up here. There. See? Just steal from one area to the other. So that's going to be all my little green, the berries for right now. And then the next thing I'll do is the green of the little flowers down here. So just going to finish out the green. So let's go back to what we were coloring the last time. And that is, I have done a little bit of playing to kind of figure out what I wanted to color. And what I'm going to do is go in, we're going to do the leaves up here, and then I'm hoping to show you how I'm going to work on the berries. So I have kind of come up with an idea. But let's start on the leaves and get those taken care of first. Super zoom. All right, so let's go ahead and start up here in the corner as I have a tendency to do. And all I'm doing is coming in. Now this is Kelp Green number 1090. And we're just going to start putting in some dark to kind of go where we've already done a little bit of coloring with the Derwent Inktense. And I know I'm covering up most of the, and I will be covering most of the Inktense, but what I really like is it makes sure that there's no white coming through, and it gives a good solid deep color. So that's one of the reasons why I like to doing the Inktense. So I'm just going to go around and do all of the little dark bits, and then I'll show you the next color. Actually, you know what? We're going to go down here because I really want you to be able to see it. So here we go. So I've been thinking a lot about this page. It's going to be kind of really a different color palette for me to some degree. And I want it to really have a glow because it is at night. But for me, a lot of times when I add a glow, it's usually done with yellows, which is kind of a warmer glow. And this is not a warm page, you know. I mean, the sentiment is warm. It's all lovey-dovey. But it's not a warm page itself. So I was being careful that I didn't suddenly introduce, you know, a really warm color, and instead it's kind of keeping in the purples and pinks, those kind of hues. Now what I love about green is it goes with just about anything on the color wheel. It can behave as a neutral. So. But even then, I could have went with, you know, a color of green that might have had more of a yellow tinge to it, and I try to stay away from that this time. Now, the whole thing is this is going to be in shadow, so to speak, because if you think about it, the moonlight is on the other side, so it needs to look as if it's glowing almost from the back. So we're going to go in for some really dark. So I'm going to bring in the black 935, PC 935. These are all Prisma Premieres. And I'm going to go ahead and start bringing that in over the dark green I just put in. Because these, you know, I want to have a really kind of deep green color. So I decided to, every once in a while, I love to follow other people's tutorials because it gets me out of my constant way of doing things. And I started following a Chris Ching, her tutorial in this book last night, and I was really enjoying it because to me doing that, it's kind of mindless. I'm not picking the colors. You know, I can go as heavy as she's going. I don't have to do it quite as slow. It's just a calming way for me to do it. And so I was working in this page over here. Let's see if I can find it easily. Probably not, you know, just because, why should I, there we go. I started working on this page, doing her color tutorial, and that's when I started getting, it relaxed me enough to start thinking how I wanted to do this page going forward and some of the color combinations and just kind of seeing how she kind of starts from the dark and then goes to the light. Kind of colors. It's kind of interesting to watch her build, and so that was a really nice experience for me, something a little different. So now I'm going to go in with my Chartreuse number PC 989, and we're going to go ahead and kind of go over both. Now if you notice, I'm not doing my light layers here. You know, the Derwent kind of cut out the need for light layers. I'm hoping I can do more vivid colors. I mean, I do pretty vivid colors anyways, but kind of a different type of coloring doing this with the Derwent Inktense as the base. And plus being more of a whimsical book, it does lend itself to this kind of coloring, which is kind of fun. Just putting in that Chartreuse mainly over where the light part is, and starting that blending process because these colors are already starting to want to blend, which is awesome. That's what I kind of wanted. And then I'm going to go back in with my Kelp Green 1090 and bring it around the edges a little bit because this really can be quite dark and over the black. So we're just going to keep blending them in. As I said, these leaves, you almost envision that there's no light on the other side of them, or at least not much. I always forget a leaf or something. Every time I seem to forget something. So I'm having to go back in and do my black here just to kind of darken it down. And I'm going to go back in with my Kelp. This one's going to be pretty dark. And then just a little hint of the Chartreuse to kind of blend them. So, you know, you just keep doing this until you feel comfortable with the colors that you've got. I'm going for not quite so bright. Alright, and then to kind of dull it down a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and I'm coming in with my Celadon Green PC 1020, and I'm just going to go over everything, and it just dulls it just a hair. So that's what I'm envisioning, because the lighting should be coming from behind these leaves, not in front of it. And then the very last thing that I've been doing on these is I'm using basically it's like a Posca pen, it's just really thin. And I'm still out on the fence if I I love how thin they are, but they can be quite gloopy, gloppy. But it's like a Posca pen with white, and it's called a Pen Touch. And I'm just going to go around the edges here. Now it is pretty, it's not as thick, it's not as bright white as a Posca, but it really, which is fine because it kind of dulls down the edges instead of making them really bright. But I don't know if I'm going to come back with brighter colors. I kind of like how, again, we just want it to dull down and disappear a little bit because the black lines make them stand out a little bit too much. And I want the edges of the leaves to kind of disappear because, again, they should be in somewhat of shadow. So I kind of like how they dull them down, and I'm just doing it around the edges. So I like that they dull it down, and there's just a hint of a highlight. It's not a bright, bright highlight. Okay, so you know what I really want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start getting the limbs done, because I think that's going to also help me with this whole coloring kind of process. So I want to do that next, is the limbs. So I'm going to go ahead and go get my Derwents one more time and bring them up, because I'd like to do that as a base coat, I think, for the limbs. So let me go get a couple of my Derwents. So I apologize, I didn't realize I didn't have you turned on and recording, but I just did this in Willow, so I'll just do this other side in Willow. Again, kind of doing it lightly to start with, because we know it's pretty heavy-handed. And then I'm going to go ahead and wet it. I'm kind of doing this as my base coat for the entire tree limb, I should say. I need to be careful. I still am going with the quote-unquote the grain of the wood, because if there are any stripes or any of that I leave behind, they'll be with the grain of the wood. I'm envisioning this to be very dark with maybe just a few little highlights here and there, but really want it to recede in the background. I mean, if you think about, again, the light coming from the other side of the tree limb, this should be pretty dark on this side. Actually, probably could have blacked the little guys out completely. We could have just done them as a silhouette in the moonlight. That would be a big cheat, though, wouldn't it? Well, it could make something quite striking, though. Don't think I'd ever have the guts just to do it quite that. Plus, I don't want to miss out on coloring a page. All right, so let me go get my water and all that, and we will activate that before we go on. All right, so that wasn't near as dark as I was thinking it might be, so we'll just go ahead and activate it to here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put something darker on, because that was not as dark as I thought it would be. And that's a little too light and a little too yellow. All right, so now we're going to go in. I'm going to do oak, actually, and see if I can get that to be a little bit grayer in color. That looks like it's a little bit darker. So we're just using oak number 1730 in the Derwents. That's a little bit better. It's still not quite as dark as I was hoping. You know, I thought there was something called walnut in this set. Am I getting that confused with some other? Maybe I'm getting it confused with like Faber-Castells or something. That's okay. We can darken everything down. And it's always better to start off lighter than too dark. You can darken it down. It's hard to lighten stuff up, so always err on the side of lighter, right? There's one more down here, so I am just going to go straight in with the oak down here. There's one more limb. Might as well do them all. And I'm going to go a little harder this time and see if I can get it even darker with the oak. All right. I think what I might do is go back in with the oak one more time. That's dry, so I'm going to actually do the oak up here again, because I'd really like that to darken down. It should not be that light. So that's one thing. These Derwents are incredibly dry. There's nothing creamy about them, which makes sense because it's supposed to be completely dry ink. But it makes for scratchy noises, which I don't know that I enjoy. Do you enjoy scratchy noises? I'm just going to put some more over here as well. The rest of it, once I do this round of Derwent, I'm going to let dry, and then I'll come back and I'll just do with my pencils, and if I want it to get it darker, which I most likely do. Now, since I let that other ink underneath dry, it shouldn't move around at this point, unless I have a little bit of that pigment left over somewhere that I didn't activate the first time. Alright, liking it better, but it's still not quite where I want it. That's okay, because now we bring in the pencils instead. So I'm going to start off with sepia, or sepia, depending on how you want to say it. And that is number PC948. So we went back to the Prismas. And I'm just going to put this most likely in the darkest spots that I can think of. that's down here. The idea that there might be some highlights here and there, but I think I can put those in with either a Posca pen or my Pen Touch type pen. It's just an acrylic type paint pen to put in some of those highlights. But for now I want to try to get further darkened down, but I don't want to lose the brown color. I don't want it to be quite so black, but I will be coming in with my black in a moment. One of the big things is make sure that the paper is dry before you start coloring on it, because it will mess the paper up quite severely. Now I am going ahead and doing it pretty heavily because I don't mind it getting darkened down, because I want it pretty dark, like I said before. Back here. Now I'm going in with just a little bit of dark brown. Use that. Now I'm going to go in with my black and really start adding some heavy duty shade darkening down. So I'm going to go ahead and sharpen it. All right, so I'm going to go back in and do a little bit more layering. This is with that dark brown PC 946, and just try to add a little bit more depth of color. Even it out a little bit, even though it can be craggy because it is a limb, it's wood. And I'm just going with the sepia just a little bit more too, just on the lower parts. And then what I'll do last is come back in again with my little pen and just do a few little highlights here and there on that really, really dark branch, just a little. And again, because this is a little bit see-through, it's not quite a stark white, and then I kind of smear it just a little bit. thinking where the moon might peek over the edge of it a little bit. Maybe from underneath here. So now I'm going to go finish up all the leaves, and then we'll come back and I will start showing you how I do the little berries, or how I'm deciding to do the little berries. So as I was doing the video and then I look up and I realize that it's almost an hour long, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and save the berries for the next episode in this series of my February. So I'm sorry that I kept mentioning them. I think I said a couple times in this video that that's what we're going to do next. But I feel like the moon, the leaves, and the limb is plenty, especially at almost 60 minutes long. And I just hope that you enjoyed it and will come back and watch while I do the berries. It's quite the process, as always. Layers upon layers, right? So thank you so much for spending time with me. And as I always say, keep coloring those pages. Bye for now.